In this video, I'm going to show you how to get an endless number of leads using Apify and Make.com, and I'm going to show you the starter steps to basically run an actor on Apify, which allows you to scrape pretty much whatever you want on the internet, and then take that data and put it inside of Google Sheets. So when we run this entire module, it ends up giving you something that looks like this, with a list of hair salons and some of their information that comes directly from their Google Maps page. Now, you're not limited to this information. There's a ton of stuff that we have access to, and I'm going to show you how it works. So if you have not heard of Apify.com, basically this is, as you can see, your full stack platform for web scraping. Basically what that means is that we can scrape almost any website and pull the data off of it and then do whatever we want with it inside of a platform like Make.com. So the way that this works is you'll see there are a few pre-populated pieces of information that we can use here. They're called actors. So in this case, we're going to use the Google Maps scraper. But you can actually, if we click on this, go inside of it and see what it allows us to do. So it allows us to use this Google Maps scraping tool to get information like the title and the place name, the phone number, search results, average rating, and a ton more. Now, this isn't the only one that we can use. So if we actually are going to look for the actors, we'll go to Apify store here. And now what we can do is we can search all the different actors, which are the scrapers that live on this Apify platform. As I said, for now, we're going to use the Google Maps scraper. And you'll notice, as you can see here, some are actually built by Apify and some are built by third-party developers who have just put these actors together for you to actually use. So in our case, we're going to use this Google Maps scraper. Now, you can see we will click try for free. You can create a free account inside of Apify, which will give you about $5 worth of credits for $5 worth of credits per month. And honestly, that gets you pretty far. So I'll show you the way the pricing works because it's a little bit different depending on the actors that you're using. But in our case, what we're going to do here, and we can do this directly inside of Apify too, which is great. But we can also do it inside of Make.com to make this an automated process for ourselves. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to delete all of this data inside of our Google Sheet here so we can start fresh. Basically, what we're going to say here is we're going to say we want, and we can change this. Let's say we want to do barbershops. And we want this to be, let's say, New York City. And for the sake of this test, we just want 5. Now, what we can also do is we can do add-on things that's going to pull additional information for us. Now, you'll see you can limit the places that are scraped. So basically what this allows us to do is set additional parameters if we only want to receive certain results. Now, when we are getting more specific with these types of things, some of these additional parameters will charge you an extra, whatever it may be. In this case, it's a fraction of a penny. So we're going to leave this blank now just for the example. So in our case, all we're searching for is barbershops in New York City. And we're limiting this to 5. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click Save and Start. So now you're going to see that this actor is now just going to run. So basically what's going to happen here is this is going to run in the background. You can see now on the right-hand side here of our screen, it's already starting to do so. It's running on the servers on Apify. And if we look down, we now have the information pulled. And for whatever reason, this actually didn't give us our websites. So sometimes information will come back incomplete, which means when you do web scraping, it's not always going to be perfect. So because of that, what we can actually do is we can continue to look through some of the additional information. That was just the overview, but we can see in contact info, is there anything else? No, website is coming back undefined. So what we're going to want to do is let's go back to our scraper and let's increase this. Let's run 15 and see if we get better results. So we're going to try that again and see if we get better results. So again, you're going to see that our server on the right-hand side is going to spin up inside of Apify, and it will then start to run, and you're going to see the information is going to start to populate. Now you're going to see here, we do have some that come back with a website. Now, some of the reasons why this may not come back with a website, faded out cuts, for example, they may not have a website. So if you're selling website services, this would be a perfect opportunity for you to find the businesses on Google Maps that actually don't have a website, and then you can swoop in and offer that as a service. So here's how this is going to work. What's great about this is we now basically have this set set and saved in our account. We can see that the scraping that we just did finished, and we have a record of it. It cost us 7 cents. So remember when I mentioned you get $5 per month for free? That cost us 7 cents to scrape 15 businesses, and it took 13 seconds. So we'll see, we can always reference this again. What's really great about this too is that we can actually export this data into a CSV or other formats if we want. In the top right, there is an export button. We're going to click export, and we have access now to pull that information and do whatever we want with it. So basically in this particular instance, what we can do here is we're just going to leave it alone. Otherwise, you could download the CSV, which will give you all of the information that it came with in a CSV file. Because we're connecting this to make.com, we're going to leave it alone. So what you're going to do in order to run and build this, we are going to start from scratch down below. Okay, we're going to do Apify. And now when we want to start a new sequence or a new make.com automation, we need a trigger. So in our case, what we're doing is we're running an actor. So as I said, this is your actor, Google Maps scraper. So what we need to do is we need to add our new trigger. So we're going to click on Apify, and we're not going to do watch actor runs. That's something different. We are going to scroll down and find run an actor. Now that we have this, you're going to see you need to connect it now to the scenario. So what we're actually going to do is we're just going to delete this above, and we are going to move our trigger node down here. So we can also get rid of this, and we are basically starting from scratch. Okay, so we have added an actor. Now, if you don't have Apify connected, what you're going to do is you're going to click Add. You're going to go down to Connection Type, and you're going to select API Token. Once you do that, you will be able to add in your information. And from here, what you are going to do now is you're going to come down into your settings. And at the top of the screen, you're going to click on API and Integrations. From here, you can create a new token. We're going to say Test Token. And we can leave set expiration off and token permissions set off. We're going to create, and we now have our test token, which we can copy, go back to Apify. We're going to say Apify test token, and we're going to paste. And from here, we can click save, and that will now connect us from make.com into Apify. Now, what we can see is that because we've connected it directly into our account, we actually have the ability to scan our recently used actors, which makes this very easy for us. So we're going to now search for the Google Maps scraper, which is automatically populated there. So we're going to select that. And then what you're going to see next is an input JSON window. So basically, this is all of the parameters that this actor can accept in order to determine how it's going to scrape the information. Now, you don't need to worry about that, because what's really nice is if we scroll back to our actors, or if we even actually just go to our runs, what we can do is we can click on our run, and we can click on the input button. Now, the input button shows us the JSON that we have. And this is the JSON that we used to run that previous instance of the actor, which got us the barbershops in New York City. Now, if you're doing something from scratch and you haven't actually run it yet, which is also fine, what you would do is you would go back to your scraper. You would set all the parameters that you want. So let's say instead of barbershops, we wanted to do delis, and we wanted to find 10. Now what we would do here is after we've selected all the settings that we want, you'll actually notice at the top, we have manual or we have JSON. So now what we can do is we can just copy this and move this over into this JSON section. So we'll copy, delete, and paste. So now you can see we're searching New York City for 10 delis. And what we're going to want to do here is we are going to want to make sure that our run synchronously is set to, we're going to want to make sure that run synchronously is set to yes. Basically what this means is that we need this run actor node to finish before it moves on. Otherwise, it will try to progress through our workflow without completed data. So what we're going to do is we are going to select yes. And then for right now, we can leave all of the other settings blank. And what we're going to do is click save. So excellent. So now we have our actor that is ready to run. So we can either run once from the bottom, or we can right click and say run this module only. Now what you're going to see is this is going to load. So now this is doing exactly the same thing that we just did directly inside the Apify app. There is one big difference, and I'll show you what that is in a second, but for right now, we're going to let that run, and it is now done. So you'll notice here in our output, the biggest difference between the way that it ran inside of Apify versus the way that it's showing us inside of Make is we just see scraping finished. You can now view all the scrape places laid out on a map here, but we don't actually have the data for all of those scraped locations. That's where we need to add in our step 2. So what we're going to do is we are going to click the plus. We're going to click Apify again, and we are now going to select our get dataset items. So inside of get dataset items, we have first run the actor. Now we need to run this second node, which will take all of the data that was retrieved from the first actor. So we're going to take this data set. What we're going to do now is we are going to scroll down and find, or the alternate way is to actually search for it, but we can see default dataset ID. And we'll drag that into dataset ID. Now, alternatively, you can just select dataset and you'll see default dataset ID. So now what this means is that we're going to run the actor. It's going to give us a dataset ID, and then we can take that information and we can actually enter that in here. And now it knows which data to pull for us. So we can limit this here as well. Even though we've set a limit of 15, we don't need to do that here. So we're just going to leave it. We're only pulling 10. So we're pulling 10 delis from New York City. And here we could say 5 and it'll only show us 5, or we can just leave it set to 100 for now. But this gives you flexibility of how you control and manipulate the data. Then you're going to click save. So now what we're going to do, if we right click and do run this module, it's going to ask us to enter that variable by default. It's going to ask us to enter that variable because we're just running a single node, not the whole thing. So what we can do, so we can click here, we can find our default dataset ID, and we can copy and paste. The reason we do it this way when we're testing is because if we press the play button in the bottom corner, then it would run the first node and run the second node, and that ends up eating into our operation. So for right now, we don't need to do that. So we're just going to run this manually, this single node. We're going to press OK, and now you will see we have all of our delis listed. Bundle 1, Bundle 2, Bundle 3, Bundle 4, Bundle 5, all the way to 10. So if we look at 1, you're going to see we now have all of the information, and we have a ton of different information about that deli. So now we've scraped the actor, or we've run the actor, we've scraped the data that the actor retrieved for us, and now we need to do something with that data. So now what we're going to do next is we are going to populate our spreadsheet. And inside of our spreadsheet for right now, for the purposes of this example, all we want to actually showcase is the business name, address, phone, website, overall ratings, review, and the Google Maps URL. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add a new module. We're going to click Google Sheets, and we are going to add a row. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to want to make sure that we are connected to Google Sheets or Google Drive. And if we're not, we're going to click add and then just manually sign into our Google account. And then we're going to select our spreadsheet ID, which in this case is our Apify lead data. Now you'll notice the structure of that is automatically going to come in once we select our sheet name. So you'll see here, we have business name, address, phone, just like we laid out in the sheet itself. And now we're going to map that data from make.com into the spreadsheet. Business name, we are going to take the title. Address is the address. Phone number is the phone number. Website, boom. Overall rating, we have listed down here as score. So we just need to find our score, which is total score. We're going to find our reviews, which is just a total number of reviews. Once we find total reviews, review count, Google Maps URL, and boom, we have all the information that we need. So we press save. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to run the entire thing so we can show you exactly how it works. So remember, our spreadsheet is empty. Our Google Sheet data is ready to be populated. So we now have to run the actor, pull the data from that actor, and then enter that information into our Google Sheet. So we're going to press play, and we're going to watch this thing run. Now, this is where things can get extremely powerful. This is just the way that we're going to pull data from Apify and put it into Google Sheets. Now we can start to manipulate that data however we want. We can do whatever we want with it. You'll see that we're looping through all 10 items as we go here, and now it's done. So basically the way that you can think about this is we can pull data on a schedule. We can pull data once, and then we can create outreach programs. We can send emails. We can manipulate that data to maybe analyze their website or whatever it may be. The possibilities are endless, but this is your starting step. This is the way to get leads and manipulate that data with your nodes, depending on what you add. So we can start to add in maybe now some review analyzers, or you can analyze their website, and then you can craft a cold email where you would reach out or some form of marketing campaign directly to those individuals. So if we check our actual sheet now, you'll notice the information is all logged. And again, not all of them have a website, and that's because it may just not be listed. And you'll see these are all of our reviews. This is how many reviews, and these are the listings directly to the Google Maps. So if we have Sunrise Deli and Market, you can see, boom, here is Sunrise Deli and Market on Google Maps. Okay, so that's your walkthrough of how to set up Apify inside of Make.com to give yourself endless leads. Hope that helps, guys. Enjoy.